Shalom, shalom, everyone. Today we're going to continue on with our Hebrew word study in Psalm 119. We'll be at verse 3, and we'll look at no iniquity, la kahul. Before we get started, I'd like to again just review a list of the resources that I found most helpful in my own studies: the Strong's Concordance, the Theological Word Book, the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon by Jeff Benner, one I highly recommend, the King James Bible. I use the Scriptures Bible. When we get into the Greek to Hebrew studies, some good resources to have are the Greek Concordance to the Septuagint and the Apostolic Bible Polyglot. I also tend to use the eSword on a very regular basis. Some of the other resources that are very helpful are the Englishman's Hebrew Concordance, the Englishman's Greek Concordance, the Brown Driver Briggs Gesenius, the Thayer's Greek Lexicon, and the Etymological Dictionary by Klein, and the Etymological Dictionary by Hirsch. Looking at the verse in the Scriptures version, we see that it reads, "Yes, they shall do no unrighteousness, they shall walk in his ways." We can see here the verse again in the Scriptures, and the word for no is no. Looking in the King James right below that, again we see the word is no, and it's Hebrew Strong's number 3808. Looking in the front of the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance, where the words are in alphabetical order, we find our word no, and then we look up our verse, Psalm 119 verse 3, and we see there's two little ticky marks at the end of the long line, so we go up to the number that's above it, and again it's confirmed in the Strong's that it's H3808. Going to the back of the Strong's, to the Hebrew and Chaldee Dictionary, again not the Greek dictionary but the Hebrew, which is in numerical order by Strong's number, we find our 3808, and we see it's lo, a primitive particle, not, the simple or abstract negation, by implication no, often used with other particles. Then we see the colon and the dash, and everything after the colon and the dash is just an English translation of the words, so we really need to be focused on everything before the colon and the dash. Turning to our Theological Word Book of the Old Testament, going to the back of the book, we find the section that has the Strong's numbers in numerical order, and we find our 3808. We see that in this book, its reference number is 1064. You can find this word and descriptions about this word on page 463 in this resource. It is no, it is a negation, and for further description on it, again, go to page 463 in this book. Moving on to our next resource, the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon of the Bible by Jeff Benner. Going to the back of the book on page 555 is where the Hebrew Strong's numbers start in numerical order. Turning to our 3808, we find that it is at 1254 JN. So we see our word on page 155 in the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon at 1254 JN. We can see from right to left it is a lam, a wa, and an l. The first definition is if, to have what you are without, and the second definition is not. It comes from an abstract of foolish. At the two-letter parent root, we see the abstract is without. To be without anything, such as nothing. Related to the lam hey, apparently an opposite of the el, lamed. The opposite of el. I just always find that interesting. So this is to have no iniquity. So we saw from the verses, So we saw from the verses that were before this that those who are undefiled in the way, who walk in the Torot of Yah, they keep his testimonies, and they seek him with their whole heart, they also do no iniquity. They do nothing that would be against Yah or the opposite of El, because the wages of sin is death. So they walk in his ways. So they do no iniquity. They follow the shepherd, are completely yoked with him and secured to El himself, because there is no iniquity found in them. So what exactly does this iniquity, or unrighteousness as we read in the scriptures, look like? We see that we can find it by going to the front of the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance and in alphabetical order looking up the word that's in the King James Version, which is iniquity, and then finding our chapter and verse, Psalm 119, verse 3. We see it is Hebrew 57:66. Going to the back of the Strong's and looking in the Hebrew Chaldee Dictionary, we see that our word is, here it says evel, aval, aval, evel. Lots of different pronunciations they have for it. We see that it is from 5765, moral, evil. And then we see our colon and our dash, so we don't really look at anything that's beyond the colon and the dash. Moving on to the Theological Word Book, going to the back of the book and going to the section that has the Strong's number in numerical order, we go to 5766 and we find that it's at 1580 A and B. So we go to 1580 A and B, which I'm doing right now, and it is on page 652, 653, and 654. So there's quite a lengthy Hebraic word summary of the different words in this root line. I'll just read a little bit of it to you. The Arabic cognate ol means to deviate. Likewise, in Hebrew, the basic meaning of this root means to deviate from a right standard, to act contrary to what is right. The root occurs 60 times, with 40 of these found in Job, 16 times, Psalms 13 times, and Yehezkel 11 times. The rest are distributed throughout the prophetic and legal literature. The verb is a denominative from ahwel, ahwala, and occurs only twice in the Old Testament, both times in the Peel stem. In Isaiah 26:10, it describes the activity of people of Judah who act unjustly or perversely, in contrast to the upright behavior. In Psalm 71:4, a prayer of supplication, the verb contrasts the behavior of the unrighteous with that of Elohim and his servant. And we see in our A and our B, we have a whole bunch of renderings of different chapters, different verses, context that it's used in. I would highly encourage you to get this resource so that whether you've been doing it a while or whether you're brand new, that you can actually take in some other context and really hammer it down for yourself what Yah was really speaking to us. Heading over to the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon by Benner, again, which I would encourage everybody to get. I will put a link in the description box so that you can order this book for yourself. Going to the back of the book, again, page 555 is where the Strong's numbers begin. Looking numerically for our number, 5766, we see that it is at 1518JN. We find our word on page 297, but the root line does continue on to page 298. We see that at the JN, the word is wicked. We see from right to left, the letters are a ga, a wa, and a lam. At the J, we see that the abstract is wicked, an action that causes a stain of immorality. At the 1518 two-letter root, we have a ga and a lam. The concrete is stained, the abstract is wicked, a dark stain. So, having no iniquity and being fully yoked and secured to El, because we have no iniquity, means that there is no darkness, no stain, no wickedness. Our garment cannot be stained, our hands cannot be dirty. There is none of this in us at all, because we would be unable to be secured in his yoke. In fact, we would be secured to the yoke of the adversary at that point. As always, my encouragement to everyone, Proverbs 2, verses 4 through 5. If you seek her as silver and search for her as hidden treasures, then you would understand the fear of Yah and find the knowledge of Elohim.